Hi, everybody. I'm Amy.
And I'm Audrea.
This is the right crowd. So grab a cup of coffee.
Or a cup of tea.
Maybe a little something on the rocks, and let's get started. Okay, so this is week 2 of 7-figure fiction. So if you missed last week, we talked about what this book is about and how it's broken into 3 parts. And we discussed the first part last week, and we will discuss the second part this week and the third part next week. If you see, this is part 1, this is part 2, this is part 3. It's not a big book, guys. You can read it in a day. But it's chock full of good information.
Yes.
So make sure you go back and you listen to part 1 so that you know where we are and what's going on. And we are going to move to, and I should also say, just in case someone's coming in and isn't listening to me and isn't going back to listen to part 1, this is not John Truby, which is what we said we were going to discuss. Audrey and I decided that we wanted more time with that book because we want to do the things that the book says to do. And there's just so much in it that we didn't want to force it. So we're giving ourselves a little more time to get that done. And in the meantime, we're discussing this because everybody is saying this is the book to read. So that's what we've decided. So anything to add to that, Audrea? While I take a sip of my coffee, so answer real slow.
Well, that's funny when you said everybody is saying this is the book to read. Yeah, everybody, even on Clubhouse, where I joined some authors or listening to some author chat. The author conference on Clubhouse, actually, to be specific, is where I go. And so I've heard her talk in the author conference, Theodore Taylor. But yeah, everybody is saying this is the book to read. And so basically I was like, well, hold my tea. Let me see if this is the book that I should be reading. And you know what? I bought the book. So I bought this book in Kindle, but then I liked it so much, and we also decided to do it. But we can do it. We can do author book club for the right crowd with Kindle books. But I like this one and wanted to have it on my shelf as a reference guide because.
Yes.
So that's why I have it in both versions. So I'll be looking over here at my notes and highlights in Kindle as well. All right, so part 2, this is where she describes or outlines all of the different universal fantasies. So if you don't know what universal fantasies are, by the time you get out of part 1, in part 2, she goes over all of the things that are, apply to universal fantasy or are considered universal fantasy. And for me, one of the great things is she explained why I like some things that I did not know I liked, or we talked a little bit about that, like, why do I all of a sudden want to read about a red-headed shifter or werewolf shifter Viking? I don't normally read. I'm the cozy mystery gal. I'm, like Sherlock Holmes and Miss Marple. But I do read fantasy too. I read lots of different genres. But one of the ones one of the universal fantasies that she describes is like the beast or the guy or the bully romance. I don't really understand bully romance, but when she describes one of the universal fantasies, it's part of that is the big, strong, or actually I'm mixing my fantasies up. Okay. The big, strong, gruff guy who's, like a bear and, mean to everybody else, but to you, he's a big old soft teddy bear. One of those, I like those. I didn't know I liked them, but I do. When I'm speaking of going through your Kindle, I went through my Kindle and I have a couple of bear shifter romances in there. I'm like, yes. But they're like bears and they're mean and tough and but to the girl, they're sweet big teddy bears and they're wonderful and they take care of them and stuff. Universal fantasy, baby, as she says in the book. So she describes a lot of them. We won't go over all of them because, of course, we want you to buy the book, and yes, it's a good book to have. But the bully who secretly loves you. That's one of the ones, this provincial life where the heroine is taken, we talked about that in the last video, taken out of her provincial life as in Belle and put into this big glorious life with servants who want to wait on her or serve her, which is another universal fantasy. What were some of the ones that you found were your favorites in part 2?
I think it's interesting is that she breaks down Beauty and the Beast in part 2. And Beauty and the Beast has a gazillion Universal Fantasy pieces. And one of the things that she pointed out was the gift that Beast gives Belle in the library. And I remember when I first saw that in the movie, I was like, yes, please. May I please have that library? I would go live with the Beast if he gave me the library. Like, I remember thinking that when I first saw the movie. And that's one of the things that she points out is the extravagant gift of something that was important to her in her provincial life, which was reading.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just gave her all of those worlds.
Yes.
When he gave her that library. So I thought that was interesting. And also the one where going back to Belle and her decision to trade places, and how she gave up the safety of home so that she could free her dad.
Yeah.
But then towards the end, he changed so much that he released her to go back to her dad, knowing full well what that meant for him.
Yes.
And how that like, oh, he's a big gruff guy, but he's got tender spots too. And oh, look, even though it doesn't work out for him, he doesn't think it's going to work out for him. He lets the maid go because, you know, whatever. So I thought that was interesting. And there are things that I would never have, yes, they make a great story, but I would never have thought of it as, but then when you look at different movies, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that's in there too. Like Cinderella, she points out Cinderella in here too. And she points out some of the things in Cinderella, but then she also points out like TV shows that we watch and how they are full. And actually, I think, is that this one or is that
no, I think it's this section. I love that she pointed that out. Well, she mentions Shonda Rhimes, you know, like, oh, Shonda Rhimes. Yeah. I had no idea why I love everything that Shonda Rhimes puts out. And it, the first butter. It's butter. It's butter, baby. Because I don't typically, oh gosh, what's the medicine TV? Oh, Grey's Anatomy. I normally did not watch any medical TV shows. I don't like it. I don't like surgery. I don't like, you know, like in real life, if somebody cuts into someone, I'm like, okay, I'll need a pillow to pass out on. But and so that whole world of medicine does not really appeal to me. But I watched me some Grey's Anatomy every week. I had to, and I was DVRing or recording Grey's Anatomy every week and did not miss an episode. And then one of the other shows she did, which I love, Scandal. I'm not a political Washington DC politics, you know, kind of person, because in real life that depresses me what our political system is, you know, what's happening there. But I never missed an episode of Scandal, and some of them I rewatched, and some of the parts I like roll that back and play that again. Oh my gosh, because it's butter. Because they were that great. She applies, or she appeals to the universal fantasy, which keeps you, even if it's not your genre, which we talked about before, you want to read, you want to see more, you want more of that.
Yeah. And I don't watch, like Randy and I have Roku, where we watch Amazon Prime. That's about all we have. Like we're just not, but we watch movies, right? So when we did have, I guess it's cable, is that what it's called? Like, I don't even know anymore what it's called.
Back in the olden days.
Back when we had, that's how long it's been. We haven't had cable in 12 years, maybe. Like, we cut it off way before we moved to Florida. I loved CSI.
Oh yeah.
And even since moving here, that's usually where I stick to. CSI, Criminal Minds. And I don't know if I watch Criminal Minds because I like it so much, or Shamar Moore, but either way, Criminal Minds. But like Jack Ryan, Bosch, those are the kinds of things that I like. But even if you look at those, it's got universal fantasy in it. Like Jack Ryan, random guy office desk, right? And he's whisked away into all of these
Wow.
like
Yeah.
terrorist situations where you as random guy sitting in your office daydream about being like the savior of everyone, the hero, right? So it's
Huh.
you still have universal fantasy in all those things. It's not just in Disney cartoons.
A romance. I never thought of Jack Ryan as this provincial life, or like a dude being whisked away into like this, spy world, or that's cool. I never thought of it that way. Maybe I should watch me some Jack Ryan.
Oh, I love Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan and Bosch, they're both so good. And it's because it's the ordinary guy
Yeah.
that gets to be the hero. And it's I think for Bosch, it's what now my dad and my brother, I've said this before, my dad and my brother are both cops. And in my house, you've never been able to watch a cop show with them because everything's wrong. Like I used to be a 911 operator, and that show 911 could not the 911 Reno where they're making fun of everything, but like the legit 911 where 911 operator, that call. I used to not be able to watch that because I'm like, oh my God, that's not how you do it. That's not what you do. Oh my God, that's not, was this person trained? Like, so I couldn't watch any of that stuff. But my dad and my brother both have said that Bosch is like on point. But I think what is appealing for people who watch it and are like addicted to when is the next episode coming out, it's the same thing. You have a cop who he's kind of tired of what's going on, and he doesn't let everybody else's lack of, I don't know the word I'm looking for. He does the right thing. His motto is everyone matters or no one does.
I love that.
So it's what we hope that all law enforcement and all first responders would have, right?
Yeah.
And that because everyone matters or no one does, that at the end of the day, it's going to make a difference, right? So that's why you're hooked, I think, is because that's what you hope. That's what we hope everybody that we entrust with a badge and a gun would do, right? So I think it all kind of falls in there.
Oh my gosh, y'all. I hope you guys are tuning in every week to this show, because mind blown. I never thought of, that's a universal fantasy that because I've talked about that in Cozy Mysteries, is justice. We go back to Cozy Mysteries because not for the donut recipes or the cupcake recipes, which are all great, or because somebody's getting murdered. It's because there's justice. At the end of that book, your hero is going to be just fine and justice will prevail. And that, I think, is a universal fantasy, that and it's also warm and cozy, and nobody really gets hurt other than the bad guy that gets dead and goes to jail.
Right. So which is what we want to happen, right? Yeah. And if a good guy gets hurt, there's going to be justice for what happened to the good guy. Exactly.
Oh my God.
So yeah.
I'm writing that into, I'm putting some notes in the book for me, because that's to me, that is a universal fantasy. I will, if you put that in your blurb, and also say that everything will be okay at the end, I'm going to read that book probably, so that's so cool. Wow. Good stuff here. Are we done? Because I'm
not quite.
Okay.
So something I want to point out that she says, right before she breaks down universal fantasy, she says, would you rather write a good book or a book that builds a forever home, or a book that builds a forever home inside the heart of your reader? If your answer is the latter, then let's figure out how to identify and use your universal fantasy to make everything we write delicious. We want the readers to eat it up.
That is right. That's what we all want.
Universal fantasy is what gets that.
Yeah. And I love, it's one of those things where, this is why I have all these craft books on my bookshelves. So I'm trying to figure out how to write not just a good book. And I didn't mention this. Oh my gosh, there's something else. But she says in this book and throughout this book, this is not about how to write the 3-act structure. This is not how to write a great sentence. This is how to write books that keep your readers coming back for more. And that's what we want if we want to have a long, successful career in writing or become a 6-7-figure author. Yes,
Yep.
please. So that's what she's outlining in this book. And I love that she put it in a way that's so practical and easy to get to. And I love that she, in this part 2, she goes over all of these universal fantasies, and also gives you exercises.
Yeah. And something that I thought was interesting is she pointed out, she said, a few people complain about how much kidnapping and imprisonment there is in romance. This is one of those universal fantasies that's not cool or legal in real life.
Mm.
However, just because you wouldn't necessarily want it to happen to you in real life, you love to see it happening in books as part of entertainment. That's why you see it in books. So even though you don't want a serial killer to break into your house,
no, thank you.
You want to read about a serial killer breaking into someone's house, right? Because it's just something that piques our interest, right? Even though it's not something we would want to happen to us, like for reals, but it's something that piques our interest and keeps us coming back for more. And then she breaks down Beauty and the Beast, and there are, what'd she say, 10 top 10 universal fantasies from Disney's Beauty and the Beast. And she breaks it down. I didn't even realize a lot of these were, and I'm reading it going, oh yeah, yep. And she literally goes through, and like the high-powered, wealthiest guy in the world chooses you, right? So like I said, we're not going to like tell you all the things because we want you to read it. So I'm just scanning to see if there's something. Oh, she also points out Hgtv Fixer-Upper.
Oh,
like, that's not my house, but oh my gosh, what did they do? Right, that's what keeps us coming back for more on all those Fixer-Upper shows. Or the one which she didn't point this one out, but the one where they used to the home makeover.
Oh yeah,
with Ty. Oh my gosh, I love that show.
Well, yeah, that's a whole makeover fantasy. You know, the ugly girl becomes, you know, the big beauty, but they do that in nonfiction with the Fixer-Upper or the shows that I like to I mean, I like, oh gosh, what's the one with the Magnolia people on TV? But they basically
Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Yep, Chip and Joanna Gaines. And then they show you at the end where they have that giant blown up of the before, and then they pull it apart, and behind that is like the big reveal is the, you know, the beautiful princess house, or the beautiful house of your dreams. Yep.
And she points out, like in Twilight, there's a love triangle. Yeah, I don't want to be part of a love triangle, but it's kind of cool to see 2 dudes fighting over a girl. Like, I mean, who didn't want more than one person fighting over you? It's nice to be wanted, right?
Yes.
Yep. So.
Yep. And I love one of the ones, like I talked about Scandal. Like I don't typically watch that kind of thing, but Olivia Pope is the slay all day wonder goddess. I mean, that woman is, I mean, she is bad. She is awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to be with that walk with the white hat? How cool she is. Her hair, her makeup is perfect all the time. I mean, this woman is banging all the time. Kerry Washington, just gorgeous. But that's one of the universal fantasies. And also the universal fantasy of, that's also in there is, what's his name? Huck. Diego in Scandal. And he is the faithful dog who will do anything that Olivia asks him to, even some sketchy bad things. And Huck is like, are you sure you want me to do that? Because if I do that, there's no coming back from that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But he would do anything for her. And who doesn't want a friend like that? And then oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say another one from that is the one that I've is actually in my book. And I didn't even realize this was a universal fantasy, but it's one that I like to write about and I like to read about, is that the family you make, or the created family. That's like one of the bonus ones she talks about. In Scandal, it's that group of people who work together as fixers in Scandal. And in my book, she's an orphan. And, she doesn't have any family except for one psycho, killer sister, but who's not in the book because it's a cozy mystery.
Just that one.
It's backstory. But anyway, she makes a family where she goes, and that so that's, I just love how this book made me think about all the things that I love, and why do I love all of these books and series and TV shows and things like that. And when you read this book, you figure that out. And then you also figure out how to apply that to your own writing.
When you were talking about that, I was thinking of the show, and for whatever reason, off the top of top of my head, I cannot think of it, but it's where they do cons, but they con the bad guys.
Leverage.
Oh Leverage. God. Okay. So
love Leverage.
Okay. So I love the show, right? Because who doesn't want to be the one to get the leg up over the bad guy?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, the acting in it is horrible.
How dare you?
No, listen, the cheesiest, whatever. It's the cheesiest, like they got cheese all day long on that show. However, it's a great show.
It really is.
And people come back for more. And they don't have Shamar Moore, right? But they have, well, the rocker guy's kind of cute, but they have people going in, ordinary people going in and get one over on the bad guy who thought he got something over on the little old lady over here, right? Who doesn't want to be part of that?
Right.
So Terry Washington, right? Scandal's got acting out the wazoo, right?
Oh yeah.
Leverage doesn't, but you're still attracted to it because it's the universal fantasy of it. Oh, come on. You cannot say.
Stop Aldous Hodge. Oh my gosh. The big geek in Leverage. He is so funny. And one thing I'm going to say about Leverage is that a lot of the corniness is on purpose. It's by design. So they do. I think in one of the episodes, they break the fourth wall where they, have the actor looking at the camera like, can you believe it? And it's based on, I think it was based on another show. Okay, we're going to start talking about show. But anyway, a similar show in Great Britain where they break the fourth wall a lot. And it's con artists, but they don't do it for justice. But you said they have no Shamar Moore, but they have Christian Kane, who is the muscle. And he sings, and not every episode. I think he only sang in 2 episodes. And yeah, this is a digression or a squirrel, but my goodness, if you have not watched Leverage, and they rebooted Leverage, OMG, and brought it back, and with the original cast, except for one person. But yeah, that's got a lot of universal fantasy. Like the character that Christian Kane, plays is the muscle. He's the retrieval artist
with the hair.
Again, with the hair, but he's the pretty guy. But he doesn't play the pretty guy. He plays the muscle. So he's the guy who kills, and beats people, and they don't really kill people in this show. But he also has that soft spot, like he's a chef. And he's very particular about his cuisine.
He's very sensitive.
He's super sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Oh my gosh.
And you're he's got muscle, and he's going to save me, and he's going to make me dinner, and he's going to have be nice and have a heart. Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah.
All the universal fantasies right there in one character, Christian Kane. So how we got to Leverage from 7-figure author, I don't know.
Talking about universal fantasies.
You guys, you're welcome. And subscribe this. Yeah, let's go back to the book.
So she then breaks down Cinderella.
Yes.
Cinderella is also full of universal fantasy. And I think my favorite part about it, about the universal fantasy that she points out in Cinderella is that Cinderella saves herself.
Yes.
Who doesn't want to be in a bad situation and be able to save yourself?
Yeah.
Right. So she breaks that down, and then so she gives us homework, and one of the things that she says on page 73, if you have this version, is that to find and read a short story centered around a Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella type universal fantasy, and then see if you can figure out what the universal fantasies are in that, right? But if you go back to page 63, there was, I have written down, oh, there, okay. So she says to pick out a favorite comfort food movie. And why is it your comfort food movie? I hadn't thought about it. And the one that I immediately thought of when she said, which one do you watch all the time? All right, so I watch Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility all the time. But I'm not going to talk about that one because, hello, it's Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, right? The movie that popped in my head as soon as I read that was The Holiday.
Oh.
Have you ever seen it?
Yes, a few times.
Okay. So it is like, in my head, when Christmas has started, The Holiday and Die Hard get watched.
Oh, yeah.
Because they are both Christmas movies, and I know people are going to disagree with me on that, but Die Hard takes place at Christmas. It's a Christmas movie. Okay. Sorry. I'm passionate about that. Okay, so, but that is not the one I broke down. I broke down The Holiday. Okay, so this is what I picked out from The Holiday without realizing this is universal fantasy. Okay, so it's a recently single woman. She goes on a trip, and a hunky guy randomly comes across her door, right? He's not supposed to be there. He doesn't know that she's there. And oh my gosh, she needs a couch to sleep on. Right?
Yeah.
So universal fantasy number one, single chick, newly single, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now this same random guy, he's all for whatever she wants to do. Because even though that is not her personality, him showing up and realizing that that is his personality sparks something in her. Right? So now you see this could actually go somewhere, right? And the everyone, you can have an opinion about Cameron Diaz, and my opinion is probably going to be different than yours. And I don't think she can act her way out of a wet paper bag. Okay. However, when they put her in roles like this or in Charlie's Angels, where she's supposed to be a ditz and she's supposed to be awkward girl in the room, it works great. Please don't put her in anything serious because it's not going to work. But in this movie, oh my gosh, she plays the part perfectly, right? Yeah. So then turns out this single hunky dad who's up for whatever she wants to do, he's a single dad taking care very well, I might add, his two little girls because his wife has passed away.
Oh yeah.
And he gets to be napkin face while they have hot chocolate, right? And he sews and he milks a cow and he does all these things that you would not expect from this hunky guy that randomly showed up at your door, right? Yeah. So he's got all the sensitive pieces, right? And then on top of all of that, he's spontaneous, he's sensitive, he's funny, and he's open to whatever she is comfortable with. If she wants to say goodbye, okay, I'll let you go. I'm here if you decide to come back. Right? So he's not forcing what his desire is, because I mean, he cries when she leaves.
Oh yeah.
He's a guy that cries, right? Yes. So it's all the things. It's all the things.
All the things.
It's all the things. So I didn't realize that it was all the things until she said, "What's your movie?" And immediately The Holiday. All right, why do I like it so much? Now, I'm a happily married woman. I do not want some random guy knocking on my door. Honestly, somebody knocks on my door, they're going to walk away because I'm not answering it. Okay? So my dogs will let me know there's someone there. I will peek out a window. Do I know you? Nope. All right. I'm not talking to you. So it's not something that, but yet it appeals because it's cute and it's
Mm-hmm.
shows a guy who's sensitive, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's Cameron Diaz in a part that's perfect for her.
Yes.
And it's not just, and here's the cool thing. It's not just those two people. It's two separate couples
Oh yeah.
who encounter the same kind of, I mean, you have Jack Black and what's her name?
Kate Winslet.
Thank you. Kate Winslet are experiencing the exact same thing on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
So they're in, you've got England and America going on at the same time, where the people that they've been introduced to are normal people in the other person's lives, but yet in someone else's life, it's happily ever after.
That perfect match, which is also a universal or fated match, universal fantasies. Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my example for my homework that I had to do.
Good job with your homework. Yeah, I found that exercise very, very useful. And I mean, we went over Bosch and leverage. So yeah, you can apply, going through and doing the exercises from the book will help you in your own writing. So don't just skip over doing an exercise like looking at your favorite TV show or favorite movie, or if your a favorite book or something like that, because it's going to help you.
Yeah.
So very nicely done in part 2.
Thank you. So I think that she goes over a couple other shows, but we'll let you read it. And I don't know that there's anything else that I wanted to point out in this, except one thing that she says is that readers love to be surprised.
Oh yeah.
But they also like to be right.
That's true.
So yeah. So keep that in mind, where I've found myself more and more, I won't say what book I listened to on the drive to Vegas, but I listened to a book on the drive to Vegas.
Uh-huh.
And about a fourth of the way in, I knew. I don't want to know that soon.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't want to know that soon.
25%.
So I want to be surprised. I mean, I want to be right, because I don't want to be like, well, how did I miss that? But I don't want to know that soon.
Yeah.
So keep your readers in all of these things, keep them strung along, because you don't want it to be when it's revealed, they're like, oh yeah, I've known that the whole time. Right? So I want to be right, but I don't want to be right so soon. So keep that in mind.
Cool beans.
Anything else for section 2?
No, I think that about covers it for me too. Cool.
Well, I used all my words for section 2. So when we get to section 3, I think you're going to have to do all the talking.
Uh-oh. All right. If you have not already done so, please go click the button to subscribe and like the show, and tell an author friend about The Right Crowd on YouTube. So we'll be back with part 3 of The 7-Figure Author, but that's it for me. Bye.
Bye.